Here we go. Very happy to be live with this month's New Voice panel, my first one of the year, which is exciting. And I'm joined by Sarah and Christie, who are going to start us off by telling us a bit about their books, starting with Sarah, because we made Christie go first last time.
So, hi everyone. My name's Sarah Bonner, and I'm the author of Her Perfect Twin, which is here we are. So that was published 3 weeks ago in hardback and ebook, and then there's a paperback coming in the summer as well. And it's a psychological thriller that tells the story of Megan, who is an identical twin who discovers her sister is having an affair with her husband. She goes to confront her sister, and they have a bit of an argument that turns a little murdery. And then she's stuck with a dead body and a decision to make. And she basically decides to try and get away with it by pretending to be both herself and her twin sister.
Which sounds intriguing.
It does.
Go on, Christie.
Okay, well, my book at the moment is under the working title Branded, and it's won the Joff Books Prize for Crime Writers of Colour. So it's due to be published sometime in autumn. It follows the story of DCI Beth Fellows, who's just been awarded a dream promotion. But unfortunately, when she goes out to the first scene, the young victim's been branded with a very familiar mark, which is a raven. She's seen it before. When she worked a cold case a couple of years ago, the victim had been attacked 6 years previous to present day. She survived, but she remains in a vegetative state, so unable to identify her attacker. But now the same attacker is back, as Beth believes, but this time he's killed. And when the stakes are raised, Beth's forced to break the law to protect the people that she loves.
Another good description. I'm going to be costing us all money at this rate as we go. Buy lots and lots of books. What got you both into writing crime?
For me, I've always really enjoyed reading, any kind of crime fiction and psychological thrillers. I like getting into people's heads and figuring them out, figuring the characters out and the story, and trying to second guess what's going to happen and see any twists and that kind of thing. So it was kind of a natural progression for me as someone who wanted to write to go into that as a genre. I do read widely, but my main area that I enjoy reading is crime and psychological thrillers.
And you, Sarah?
Yeah, very similar for me, to be honest. So I have always read thrillers, kind of starting with Stephen King and Dean Koontz as a teenager. And then I think that there's just something absolutely fascinating about people who can commit these quite horrendous crimes or who behave in ways that are kind of outside of what we consider to be kind of normal by society. And I think that some of those dark characters are just absolutely fascinating. So there's definitely a draw to that kind of dark side. And then, yeah, I had the idea for Her Perfect Twin, and it all just kind of snowballed, and just every iteration that I wrote of that just got darker and darker. So I just went with it.
So, but Christie touched on reading crime. Have you got some favourite crime authors that you would particularly enjoy? I call them your shut up and take my money authors. You know, the ones that you're just going to buy their books, whatever name it says. It doesn't matter what it's about, you're just going to buy it. Who are those kind of people for you?
For me, would be Dorothy Coomson, Lisa Jewell, Callie Taylor, Jenny Blackhurst, Kaz Freer, Harriet Tice, Nadine Matheson, to name but a few. I could go on and on. Liz Nugent, she's fantastic. Olivia Kiernan is another. There's so many, to be honest. There's such a lot of talent within that sort of genre and that area. I'm spoilt for choice.
What about you?
Yeah, basically the same list, to be fair. I'll add Catherine Ryan Howard to that, and an American author called Samantha Downing. And yeah, there's so many amazing, particularly in the psychological thriller genre at the moment, that yeah, there are just too many books and I cannot read them all, which is a lovely problem to have.
There's another author that I wanted to mention as well, Diane Chamberlain. She's absolutely incredible. Her earlier books weren't really crime based that much, but her later work has become more and more involved in crime and mystery, and they're just absolutely incredible. And she's always been a great champion of mine, and has been very, very supportive.
We've got some lovely messages on. So Sam said hello. So was Leslie Lloyd, who also says that she loves her perfect twin, which is high praise indeed, because Leslie does not give away high reviews very often. So if she's saying she loves something, that's very, it means it's a very good book. Sam wants to know, at what point during writing your debut did you realise you had something good?
Oh, that's a difficult question, isn't it? I think for me, it was when I was able to write that kind of elusive one-page synopsis, and it made absolute sense. So the first book I ever tried to write, when I came to writing the synopsis, I realized it didn't have a plot. So that's obviously never a good thing. But yeah, I think with this, it was that it just fitted on a page. It was really obvious and clear that there was a kind of novel length story, and the beats hit in the right place. And I think that was the moment that I went, okay, yeah, maybe this could work. And obviously then, you know, had months of thinking it didn't work, but we got there in the end.
But it really does work, because you've got people commenting that they love your book,
which is just amazing. Particularly as a debut author, to have people say that they enjoy what you've written is just, yeah, fantastic.
Could I just check? Am I frozen on there?
No, you're not.
There's like a
Caroline
screen of
is.
me that's completely frozen. All right, okay. So when did I know that I'd hit on something with it? I sort of had the idea in my head quite well rounded, but I'm what they sort of term a pantser, and I just sat there and started writing. And I find that after a while, if I feel that the characters are kind of channeling themselves via me, that's when I know it's working. If they're taking me off on tangents and telling their own story, then it's sort of, I know it's working at that point. And then I'll get so far and go back over what I've written to perfect it and maybe put in some little seeds for people to follow, you know, just plant some ideas. And then from that, I'll figure out the ending. And I sometimes learn new twists and whatnot along with the characters.
I think that's a good way of keeping people interested, though. Right?
Well, yeah, if it's a surprise to me, then it's probably going to be a surprise to them.
Exactly.
So long as it makes sense and there's motivation for things. Sometimes I have to go back and kind of drip feed the motivation through, because I think, I need a little bit more of a reason for them to be doing this. I understand that they're doing this, but I need the reader to understand why they're doing this. So then I might go back through and thread that information. So writing the book for me comes quite fluidly and naturally. It's then when you get to the end of the first draft and you start going back through draft after draft after draft to perfect it. I think if you're a planner, which I'm not, that would be a lot easier. I tend to do that stage after I've written the first draft.
Even though you sat in front of a beautiful plan.
Yeah. That's thanks to Alexandra Sokoloff. I did an online course with her. She was actually recommended by Diane Chamberlain, and she's absolutely fantastic at helping you to understand how to plan and the beats of a story and things like that. So then when I say I do it afterwards, I go back through and kind of do the chapter breakdown and stick it on there, and then from there I'll be able to figure out if there's climaxes in the right places and things like that, and keep the flow of the book going, and make sure that for every sort of outcome, that for every build up there's a payoff, or if there's a red herring then it is meant to be there, and just make sure that all the continuity is right.
So what are you like, Sarah? What on the planner and pantser kind of level?
I think I'm quite similar, actually. So I tend to start with a kind of bit of a what if question or a kind of high level concept. And then I will write a first draft, not really having any idea where it's going to go. And then once I've done that, then I go back and I plot it. And it's actually not in this room, in the bedroom. I have a huge wall that is basically 5 sheets of A3 whiteboard that I then plot in the nth degree on, and then link everything back up, and make sure it all flows through at that point. But yeah, I tend to just write kind of on the fly for that first draft, because I think quite often that you get to know your characters and then you put them in a situation and they react in a way that seems quite real, because you're not engineering a character to then fit a plot, you're writing a plot from a character, and that for me works a lot better. But yeah, I do have to then plot it all out, and my background's in finance and project development, so I'm quite used to going through and being very meticulous on stuff, and I think that's probably when I'm happiest, which is really nerdy.
I do completely understand the way you work, though. That makes complete sense to me.
There's nothing wrong with being really nerdy. So we've got good evening from Donna. I'm saying that all 3 of us are fine, so we're not frozen or anything else. And we've got a couple of other questions. I think Leslie has asked, I'm guessing this is Leslie, it says Facebook user, has asked, do you both write full time, and if not, what are the day jobs?
I do write full time at the moment. I've got quite poor, well, very poor health, to be perfectly honest with you. It's not something that I talk about too much, but it's there, and I don't mind talking about it. I've got a really rare autoimmune disease that needs careful management. So for me, I always dreamed of being an author, but thought it was impractical, and did a journalism degree thinking that was more practical. I started out in my career and became very poorly and had to give up work. And then all of a sudden, this became the more practical option because I could do it on my time when I'm well enough. For many years, that was not an option because I was very, very poorly, in intensive care all the time, and I had stem cell treatment in America. But now, since I've been back and I've been put on infusions that I have every month, I'm able to write again, which is just, it's like a gift to me. I've always loved writing and always wanted to do this, so I decided to pursue it.
Good. Sarah?
So my background's in finance, as I said. So I was originally an accountant, and then in more of a kind of project management role. I got made redundant at the beginning of the pandemic. I was working for an airport, not a great industry to be working in for the last couple of years, to be fair. And I write full time, but more because I don't have a day job, if that makes sense. So I've been incredibly lucky to be able to do this and to kind of have the time now to devote to it, which is fantastic. And yeah, fingers crossed that I don't have to go back to finance. So if everyone could please come buy my book so I don't have to, that'd be lovely. Thank you.
Both great answers. Sam wants to know, and this is a sort of a group favourite question, what the last scene was that you wrote, if you can tell us without giving away a spoiler. So obviously if you've written the ending and revealed who the bad person is, don't tell us, but if you can, do.
Well, I'm actually working on the second book in the Beth Fellowes series at the moment. I'm about 60,000 words in, but I brainstormed with my partner early yesterday because I was feeling a little bit stuck, and it helps if we bash around ideas. And she came up with something really good. Which she's good at coming up with the ideas, but she would not be any good at writing them. And that she admits that. But I went back through and threaded this detail into it. So it was earlier in the book, but as it's from the second book, I'm struggling with how to sum it up without giving something away. It was the murder in my second book at the moment, because it hasn't even gone to the publisher or editor or anything for their okay yet. Instead of it all coming from Beth's point of view, I also do the killer's point of view. And the killer has just taken somebody, I won't say who, to visit the site of his first murder. Only that person is completely unaware that that's where the murder occurred and that this person is the killer. And that's all I can really say without giving something away.
Good. It makes you want to go back and read it, though, doesn't it? You're intrigued for when it comes out. Sarah?
So I'm also working on book 2 at the moment. So I'm actually just going back into another round of edits on it. So the last thing I wrote was the opening of book 2 for probably the 4th time. I thought I'd nailed it, and then last night I was sitting down reading something else entirely separate, and suddenly had a thought and went, oh, that'd be a much better way of opening it. So that's what I'm writing at the moment, but I'm not going to give anything away until my editor's seen it, because I don't want to tempt fate that she might not like.
So Leslie has said that she loves the split point of view, and she thinks it sounds like a good combination of writer with an ideas person.
Yeah, definitely. Although, to be perfectly honest, I do come up with pretty much all the ideas myself. It's when I get stuck and I'll say, help. And then we'll sort of brainstorm and bash ideas around until we come up with something. Some of what she comes up with can be completely self-serving because she likes a particular character and she'll want me to make nice things happen to them and not horrible things. So those ideas get thrown and ignored. But every so often there's a gem, and this time there was a gem. So yeah, I'm very grateful. She's actually a painter, so she has one side of the house and I have the other, and we ignore each other all day.
I don't think I could. My poor husband works from home and is quite creative. And when I had to work from home, because I'm a teacher, so I go to work every day. When I had to work from home, I think I drove him insane. I literally can't work from home. I don't know whether it's because of what my job is. I can't. And I think I just drove him crazy. And I just wandered around and was like bothering him and throwing his flyer and
I can understand it. When I first got really sick and we had to get used to being around each other so much, we wanted to kill each other. It was awful. And then we got used to it to the point that lockdown was kind of a breeze for us. It was normal. It wasn't really anything that different. So yeah, it's taken a long time for my life to kind of become a bit more normal and for us to not constantly be together. But I think we're really lucky that we do just get along. But yeah, my mum and dad, when they're together, my mum wants to murder my dad. So yeah, he's coming up to retirement. Poor mum.
Well, there was no murder. We got on well. I think I threw him off his routines a bit. Sam wants to know if you got a favourite character from your books.
For me, probably I like writing the horrible characters, really. But yeah, if I was going to pick one of the nice characters, I'd say probably my favourite character isn't the main character, Beth. It's her best friend, Millie. I don't know why, I just like that character. Oh, and Aunt Margie. I really like Aunt Margie. I decided to give Beth an auntie that had raised her. Beth witnessed her mum's murder when she was 4 years old. So she's got an interesting backstory. And she was 4, so she witnessed it, but it's just a monster that came and did what he did. But she was raised by her kooky Aunt Margie, who lives in St Anne's in a bungalow that she's painted pink and really upset the local historical society. And she joins a Zumba class that is online at like 4 a.m. in the morning because it's another country and she's doing it online. So she wakes Beth up when she's decided to come round and sleep on the sofa. She wakes her up dancing through the house to Dancing Queen, getting ready. So I like writing her as well. I think she's an interesting, funny character that I'd liken to my Auntie Sheila, but she wouldn't like that I liken it to her.
What about you, Sarah? Your favourite character?
Yeah, so in Her Perfect Twin, I think it has to be Tom, who is the love interest. And mainly because he was the first character in the book when it very first started. So it actually started off as a short story about a twin trying to decide if she should go on a date with this guy who thought that she was her sister. So this kind of love story was really the kind of initial spark of the story for Her Perfect Twin. So then the kind of thriller got built round it almost. And so he's just such a lovely, lovely guy, because the whole kind of point of it is that everyone would fall in love with him. And yeah, he was just so much joy to write in a book that's really dark, because there's I switch point of view partway through the novel, so that you hear from some of the other characters who are really, really quite horrible. So actually writing him, he was a bit of kind of light relief, I suppose, during that writing process.
I get that. That's what Margie was for me. That's why I liked her.
I think you need that when you write something that is so dark that it kind of stops you from going too far.
So, Christie, you're going to Whitley Bay
for
an event. What other author events have you got planned? Both of you. So let's see what you're going to in real life.
I'm going to Crime and Publishment Weekend in Gretna Green at the end of this month, from the 25th to the 27th of February. That's actually a tutored weekend, but it's where when I was first starting out, I asked Mike Craven if he had any advice on places to go and learn the craft sort of thing and sort of network and get to meet people. And he recommended it. It's where his career got started. So I went along to it, and I've only been once, but ever since I've kept in touch with a lot of the people from there, and we get on great, and it's a nice community. And then I'm going to Swanwick Summer School because one of the people from there that I met was Kate Bendelow, who's an author of non-fiction and crime fiction, and she's a working CSI in Manchester, and she recommended Swanwick Summer School, and we've been great friends ever since we met at Crime and Publishment. So I'm going to that in August. And then obviously I've got Whitley Bay, but I'll be going to Bloody Scotland as well. And that's not me being rude, that is what it's called. I don't just not like Scotland, I love it. So I'm going there in September, and it's my birthday on the 18th of September, so it works out great. It's an excuse to go every year now. And I'm hoping to go to Capital Crime and possibly Harrogate. But I am going on a holiday this year to America, and it depends what I have time for and the funds for. And I've got an awful lot going on, but they're the things I've got queued at the minute.
Nice. Sarah?
So in 2 weeks, I'm off to Aberdeen for Granite Noir, which is going to be my very first live author event. So I'm really excited about that. And then I'll be doing Lime Crime, which I think is in June. So really excited about that, because that's in Lyme Regis, which is somewhere that my husband and I have been on holiday a number of times as well. So it's an area that we love as well. We'll definitely be at Harrogate, even if it's just as a attendee. So I really desperately wanted to go last year and couldn't make it. And obviously the year before it was cancelled. So really, really excited about that. Have a massive long list of people to finally meet as well. Because definitely one of the brilliant things about being a debut has been the number of people that you meet. Generally virtually, because obviously we're still or only just starting to come out of restrictions. So actually being able to go and meet those people in real life and have a glass of wine or whatever with them is just going to be absolutely amazing. And I'm very much looking forward to that. So yeah, those are the couple that are definitely in the diary, but hopefully a few more.
Just to clarify, I'm going as an attendee because my book's not released yet. But the things that I love doing anyway. So, and I recently read at Noir at the Bar in Edinburgh. So if you haven't read at Noir at the Bar, you might want to consider it. It's great fun, good crowd. There was Trevor Wood, Fiona Erskine, Emma Christie, loads of Helen Sedgwick, loads of really great authors there. And there is every time. And it's run by Jackie Collins and Kelly Lacey, and they're absolutely lovely. So you should contact them.
Good top tips there. Yeah, I love Harrogate as a crime festival to go to, partly because it's really close to my.
Is it?
Yeah, it's about an hour from where I live.
Ah, right. Oh, it was quite a trek. I went last year, and it was quite far for us, but it was good fun. Stayed in a hotel that had no fans and no air conditioning, and it was I don't know if you remember, but it was absolutely boiling. So it was like sleeping in a.
I managed to go last year. I got told to isolate. I was planning to go, and then got my second isolation in a period of about 4 days.
Oh, gutted.
Yeah, it's a bit. Was a bit rubbish. Oh dear, we've lost Sarah. Never mind. Yeah. We can answer this question while we wait for Sarah to come back. She said someone's asked if your book's on NetGalley.
Not yet, because it's not actually going to be released until autumn. And I don't know what the plan is yet. It's completely down to the publisher. I haven't found anything out yet. But I will keep you posted.
Fair enough. Sam has asked both of you what you've learned from book 1 that will help with writing book 2. She's asking for tips, basically, because Sam needs to write a book. She writes really good short stories, and she has plans for a book. And if she's watching, she knows I've told her this. I've sent her things to help. She needs to write. So she might have some tips. Give her your best tips. What you learned from book 1 that'll help with book 2.
Well, for me, this book was actually the second book I wrote. My first book is going down a different avenue. But because my second book was more historical as well, that had an awful lot of research that I did as I went along. Whereas with my second book, I did most of the research beforehand, and writing the first draft start to finish only took me 3 weeks. So my learning curve was just that: do all the research, as much of it as you can beforehand, so that then you can write organically from the character's point of view without having to drop in and out. And you'd not have the knowledge what you would expect that character to have, if you know what I mean. So if you're writing a forensic person, you would know their area of expertise. If someone's going into an interview to interview a suspect, if you know interview techniques, you can sort of fit them in a little bit. And I had a one-to-one with Dorothy Coomson, oh my God, earlier on today, as part of my prize for winning Joff books. And she actually pointed out that I was really good at characterization and everything, and pacing, which was just wow. I've been a fan of hers for years, so it was fantastic for me. But yeah, finding out all the nitty-gritty details beforehand, if you do that, you can write more fluidly, I find. Not to say that the second book in this series has happened in 3 weeks. It hasn't. That was a fluke. It's taking longer, sadly, but it still stands to reason. If you get enough sort of knowledge under your belt about police procedure and that kind of thing, you don't have to keep starting all the time. and it's just some of the information you might need to check, but not constantly, which I think breaks your flow, for me anyway.
What about you, Sarah?
I think for me, the biggest thing I learned was to trust myself a little bit more. So the first, or the version of Her Perfect Twin that got sent to my agent, that was on the basis of, or was the version that she offered to represent me on. The very first thing she said to me when we went to edits was, "Would you change the ending?" And she had an idea that was what I'd originally wanted to do, and thought, "You can't do that. I can't do that." And just hadn't been brave enough to do it. And it's absolutely the right thing. Also, I'm not going to tell you what the ending is, but so yeah, I think that idea of just trusting your gut and going with it and taking a little bit of a risk on it. And I've done the same thing with book 2, where I had an idea. I thought, I will never pull that off. So I kind of pulled it back a little bit. And now I'm in the third round of, or doing the third draft of it, going, no, it needs to go back to that original one. That is what needs to happen. And just to trust yourself that you actually can write it. Because if you don't, it won't work. But if you just trust that you can make it work, it probably will. And it's probably exactly the right thing to do with it. And quite often that initial thought is right, because that's the book that you're kind of, that's the book you want to write. So just write the book you want to write. Do it how you think.
Good advice. Sam said I'm encouraging, but she's a scaredy cat. So you just need to do it, Sam. Donna has said she's hopefully going to meet all of us at some point. She's going to Harrogate, Bloody Scotland, and Capital. I'd love to go to Bloody Scotland. It's quite a journey, though. But Harrogate is definitely on my plan. I'd quite like to go to Hull Noir as well.
Yeah. And Bloody Scotland might be a bit of a trek, but there's lots of decent accommodation there, so I won't worry too much. If you can manage to get the time off work, it's well worth it. It's brilliant.
See, that's the thing. As a teacher, you get time off work, but you get time off.
Probably not in September.
Yeah, like specific holidays, don't you? You don't get to go random time off work. That's just not a thing. September tends to not happen for me. Sam has also asked what things you always have around you when you're writing.
I'm one of those weird people. I write kind of anywhere. And in fact, on day 1 of the pandemic, my husband stole my writing desk to work from home and has still stolen it. Hence, I now have finally this week have converted the spare room into a home office. But it did mean that I had to get used to writing. I have a lap desk on the sofa or in the bedroom, or when the sun, when the weather's nice, outside, sitting on it's not even a camping chair, it's a camping bed. Just make do with what you've got. So I think that's meant that I don't need to have specific things around me, which I think is probably quite useful. If we ever get to go out and do anything else, it'll be quite handy.
See, I'm a little bit different to that. If I'm going to a writing group or something, like I go to the Word every so often and things like that, and join other people, and we sort of sit and we chat and catch up and then write or do our own work, and then might read a bit out at the end. Sometimes something will come of that. But if I'm going to be putting in a lot of work in writing, I tend to I just like my own comforts, and I'm a creature of habit. So I like to sit at my computer where I am right now. And it's not the tidiest, to be perfectly honest with you, but it's organised chaos. And when Amy comes in and tidies, it drives me mad. In fact, she sorted out all my books and did them chaotically and not good. But I tend to have to hand, I can tell you, The Real CSI by Kate Bendelow, who's my friend, but she's a CSI, and this book is very informative. The Crime Writers procedural book there. Oh, sorry. Crime Writers Case book, things like this. And then this that was recommended to me by Mari Hannah, which is the new Oxford Dictionary for Writers and Editors, and box set of grammar and everything. So I'll have them if I want to check anything, or if I'm being a bit lazy, which is quite a lot of the time, I'll use Lexico online, which was recommended to me by Ian Skewis, who did some initial edits for me on my first manuscript, and told me that a lot of the time editors use Lexico online, and it's really invaluable. It's great. So I use that as well. And then I actually do have some good luck things, which is a picture of my nana that Amy put in a frame for me, and she sits right there. An ugly little, can you see him? Buddha, because my nana collected Buddhas. And I wear this to every event I ever go to, which is the cross and chain that my nana bought me when she was very sick. So yeah, they're my good luck charms, and I keep them. And this comes with me to everything I ever do. So I've always got that on. And a little ring off my mum and dad that's a hug. It's just little arms. So they're my good luck charms, really. I take them everywhere with me. And Amy, I bring her too.
I did this, me and Sam did this interview with Joe Singleton. He does Montague Island books. It's brilliant. If you ever get a chance to go and watch it, you have to choose so many books to take with you to a desert island, and
Oh God.
item, and various things like that, like a CD and a DVD and things. And you can tell that Sam is very practical and things, because her thing's like a luxury item where I'll bring like a firelighter and we can have an outside fire and it'll be really nice. And my luxury item was like, can I take my husband? He won't fit in a bag, he's quite tall.
But you can light the fire. Then you don't need to worry about the firelighter, surely.
Maybe. But yeah, that's always worth checking. So Kate is brilliant. She's a member of the group. We've had her do some sort of Ask the Expert panels and things. And Stuart Gibbon, who did the Crime Writers Case book as well. Graham Bartlett, we've got as expert.
Oh, he's brilliant. He's brilliant, Graham. And he works with Kate. They do an advisory thing, and you can book courses. I've done a course with them. That was one of the things I did before writing my first in this series, because I wanted to learn about forensics, police procedure. And then you had Brian Price that was doing the the sort of science side of it. So we've
had all three on doing the events in the group. But if you had to choose an expert who you've not spoken to, like someone that you would really wish you could be in contact with for your books, who would you choose? Stumped you both there.
Probably David Wilson then, I guess, because I watch a lot of true crime documentaries, and he's always an expert on there, and I like him. So probably him, maybe. Or
I'm not saying we can help in any way. Unless you have someone like Graham Bartlett, we can. Sarah, who would you choose?
Oh, that's such a difficult question. I don't know, actually. I think I tend to go, in terms of writing, I write much more psychological than crime, which is probably a good thing because I don't have that background at all. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of incredible writers who I would love to pick their brains, particularly people who have, written 10, 20, 30 books. I'd love to chat to Dean Koontz, for example, who I just grew up reading his books, and I'd love to pick his brains about how his crazy brain must actually work for some of the things that he came up with. So Yeah, I think I'm going to put Dean Koontz just purely from expertise of writing that many books over that long a period of time, and writing stuff that kind of defined that thriller genre. Certainly in my mind, defined that sort of genre. So
Good point. And I think so. I interviewed Brian Price last year. He's really interesting to talk to. And science being wrong in a book. I'm a science teacher. This is a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, really bugs me. It's the one thing that has stopped me reading sort of books and things. If someone gets something really glaringly scientifically wrong, what's the thing that would stop it for you? What's your sort of your bugbear in a book? What really, if you saw it, is like I can't.
For me, it'd probably mainly be whether I could get on with the writing style or not. Sometimes it's not even about the fact that the book's really good or really bad. It's just that some styles of writing don't appeal to me as much as others. So there'd be that, or if the pacing wasn't there, or the characterization.
yeah, I think I get weirdly irritated by kind of niche things that I know about that I know other people don't, and I think that's probably the same for a lot of writers, particularly where that kind of pertains to kind of our day jobs and things. So I get really annoyed when people describe someone turning up at the airport, 5 hours early and checking in and then going and sitting and waiting for their plane at the gate. And I'm sitting there going, well, you don't know the gate until T-55, because I've worked in airports for years. So it's, it's those kind of things that are really, really niche to what you know. And that irritates me. But then I know that I'm probably the only person in the world that would ever pick up on it. So I do try and then let it go. And I'll kind of, lean over to my husband, who also works at the airport, and say, Sweetie, listen to this. And he'll go, ooh. And then we'll just leave it and I'll move on.
Actually, I have to say, if you find that the detective is going into the crime scene and Kate says this, and it is true because it does annoy me, and I don't even work in forensics, is moving things around with a pencil or something, or touching everything, and they don't have gloves on. I mean, even that they're in there without being suited and booted and everything, that will make me stall a little bit. And if the book isn't good enough for me to see past that, then I might sort of think, But for the most part, I find it really irritating to stop a story before I know what happens, and I can't make myself skip to the end. So I'll just force myself to read something, but I'll read it much slower than if it was really interesting.
I can't stop reading. Like once I've started, like if I as long as I get past the first kind of chapter or two, I will read to the end, to the bitter end sometimes. But I mean, generally, my view is, if it's been published, I'm gonna like it because it's gonna be good. But then, yeah.
Unless you read something and it's full of spelling mistakes and things, and you think, that has happened a couple of times, but yeah.
I do. And then I also, like, now having been through the process, I know how that can happen, and it's kind of no one's fault. And
it's if it's littered.
Happened
occasionally, but I think I've read something that I didn't realise was self-published or something, and hadn't been through that process to pick up on it all. And then I've thought, you know what, there's a good story here, but Jesus. and I'll find it a bit irritating, but yeah.
But then these are the things, isn't it? 'Cause you wouldn't all pick up on those. I would probably have got the airport one, I'm going to be honest. But I have a brother who's very into planes. Very. And used to make me go to the airport and watch them with him and things. So I think I spent a lot of time sort of around that kind of thing. So I would pick up on that.
My nephew was fascinated with steam trains when he was younger, growing up, and the amount of steam train museums that I got dragged to. And after a while, one steam train is just like another. And it was just, oh my God, how many steam train museums can there possibly be in the UK? But there's a lot. A lot.
That for planes is my brother.
Yeah. I feel the pain.
I can't get excited about planes anymore. Having spent, I spent literally 10 years working at the airport, and after a while, I
had zero interest
wanes.
in trains, to be honest. I had no interest.
He does work in the airline industry.
Oh, does he?
And still will not shut up about planes. He won't.
Bradley left that phase behind a long time ago, thankfully. But at the time, my dad fully exploited it because he liked trains. So it was always, oh well, we'll go here when we go such a place because Bradley will love it. And it was more like, Dad will love it. Bradley will also love it. We'll all get dragged. So yeah, it was that and war museums over and over and over for many years.
So the other favourite question of the group, and I'm surprised no one has asked it actually yet on the stream, so I'm going to ask it anyway, is have you ever acted out a scene that you've written? The best answer so far currently still sticks with Mark Richards, who thought acted out a fight scene on Whitby Pier.
I haven't gone that far, but when I write, Amy actually does say to me that I look psychotic because as I'm writing the characters, my expression changes with them and I don't even realise I'm doing it. And when I do the dialogue, I speak it and I speak it as they would speak it. So there's a lot of horrible characters in my books. So you can imagine that she's sort of thinks, yeah, you look a bit nuts when you do that. Let's not go writing in public. Which I have done and forget where I am and do that. So, but yeah, no, not acting them out, but that, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so same. I've never acted them out, but I do read out loud. Partly when writing dialogue. And yeah, the dog thinks I'm completely crazy. And she'll just kind of sit there and kind of like, who are you talking to? And then reading the whole thing, or certainly I did before I submitted to agents for the first time to do kind of an error check on it. And then with past pages and things. But no, I've never acted any of it out yet.
Idea now. Maybe the dog is sitting listening and ready to edit.
That would be great. I mean, if she could edit, that would be brilliant.
My dog just nudges my arm all the time when I'm trying to type, so to try and make me stroke him. It's really irritating. I lock him out a lot of the time. Leave him with Amy while she paints, so we can knock her arm and destroy the painting.
Sam has asked you both if you could live somewhere for a year while you set a book there. Where would you choose?
Ooh, so I definitely have an answer for this one. So and I'm trying to make an excuse for how I can set a book in Las Vegas, fully in Las Vegas. So in Her Perfect Twin, part of it is set in Las Vegas. Because circumstantially during lockdown we couldn't go anywhere, we couldn't research anything. And my husband and I are terrible, degenerate gamblers, and we go to Vegas twice a year and play blackjack. And so it's somewhere I knew really well. So I included it as the destination because I knew they needed to go away somewhere. So I had them go to Vegas because it was somewhere I knew. But yeah, I am trying to think about how can I write an entire thriller set in Vegas and then have an excuse to, maybe not a whole year. I think I'd probably be bankrupt by the end of a year, but certainly like a good month. And I'd love to, go and learn how to be a blackjack dealer and actually kind of how casinos work from the inside out. That would be amazing. So yeah, I just need to think of that idea that can allow me to go, I'm just going to go to Vegas for a month on a research trip.
Well, this is a year apparently, so
yeah, I think a year would be probably,
you'd be skint.
I'd be completely bankrupt. Yeah, and probably have alcohol poisoning. So a month. We'll go for a month.
You're not telling us with confidence about your blackjack skills.
The house always wins. Supposedly.
Yes. No, they do. But very marginally. If you know what you're doing, blackjack's one of those good games where it's not that bad. And there was a guy who managed to convince a whole load of casinos that he was really bad and didn't know how to play, and so they turned the odds literally to his favor because he had so much money to burn, and they thought, well, he's not going to know how to play, and then he did, and he took millions from the casinos.
Ooh.
And before they became wise to it, and then he's never allowed in a casino anywhere in the rest of the world again. So
I've always thought if I was really, really clever, which I'm not, I would go on that thing. What is it with Bradley Walsh where you go up the table thing? Oh, what's it called? That game show. Yeah, The Chase. I would go on there and play it abysmally on purpose, so they gave me a really high offer, and then I would win it if I was clever enough to do it, which I wouldn't be. So I wouldn't go on and embarrass myself. But
yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm just gonna pretend to be really bad, and then get like nothing. Just crash
I am really bad. Yeah. But with gambling, I just do like the 10p machines, so I'm not really. I have no idea about blackjack. That and you know the bingo ones where you have to follow the numbers. I get ridiculously addicted if I go in an arcade, and then I have to get dragged out. So they're not good for me. I wouldn't go to Vegas. I would go. I would go to a tropical desert island if I could choose anywhere, and just live on there with just me and Amy and my dog Laddie. But I would like people to be able to visit because I'd miss them. So that would be my ideal. That's what I would do. But there'd be no sharks because I'd want to swim in the sea, and I wouldn't go in there if there were sharks or fish. So if that can be arranged, yeah, I'd love to do that. But other than that, probably America or Italy, maybe.
Those are answers I wasn't expecting. Really good. That was a great question, Sam. We need to use that one again. I didn't expect sort of I'm a gambler.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't admit to that, should I? It's probably not a good thing. But yeah.
Especially now they'll see you come in.
I'm not that good. I generally do lose, but
neither are places that I have ever been either. I tend to avoid arcades. They're too full of flashing lights and things.
And noisy children, yeah, you kind of have to try and block them out. Especially if there's a ride that is very, very repetitive and you're trying to concentrate on winning the bingo game that never pays out. I'm always tempted to go and unplug them, but I think I'd get kicked out and then that would defeat the issue anyway, so...
And then you've been asked your memorable moments as an author so far.
Oh, I've got a few. Talking to one of my all-time idols, Dorothy Coomson, earlier today. Doing Noir at the Bar with some of the most brilliant authors. Capital Crime, because when I went to Capital Crime, I'd been in hospital with sepsis the week before and I didn't think I'd be able to go. But Amy had bought me tickets for my birthday and we went. I arrived in a wheelchair and crazily, because I was still quite poorly, but crazily, I don't know what it was, adrenaline or something was just pumping through my veins and I had such a blast. I was out walking by the end of it, a little, but managing. And I left there completely believing that I could actually be an author and that it was what I was going to do. And I finished the first book I wrote on the back of that because that just solidified everything for me going there. So that's very memorable.
Good answers, Sarah?
I've had a slightly odd kind of writing journey, I think, because of obviously kind of COVID and lockdowns and everything else. I went into lockdown having written a book that will never see the light of day. It wasn't great, didn't have a plot. Yeah. Anyway, it was a an exercise in how to write a book rather than how to write that specific book. And so yeah, kind of went into lockdown with this book that won't go anywhere. And thinking, we left the office on the Friday thinking we'd all be back in. Never went back. Got made redundant a couple of weeks later. So never went back in. Started writing Her Perfect Twin in the summer of 2020. Queried it, got my agent, got my publisher, went through the whole editing process, didn't meet anyone in my team up until 3 weeks ago, where I finally saw it on a shelf. I was still not 100% convinced this wasn't all some massive hoax. Or some kind of weird fever dream that actually hadn't happened. So I kind of feel like I've done this whole journey, but without leaving my house. So I think for me, kind of going in a couple of weeks and doing Granite Noir in Aberdeen, that's going to be probably the big highlight, because I think that's the moment where I'm going to go, actually, yes, this is really real. And a couple of weeks seeing it on the shelves of a bookshop for the first time and going, no, I did actually write a book. So yeah, it's been a very strange journey, as I think it has for a lot of people who are kind of debuting at the moment, that it's not having met your teams and just kind of doing it in this weird almost vacuum, but then with a ton of stuff on Zoom and various other forums, but never actually in person. So yeah, super excited about the next.
I found that there was a lot of unexpected opportunities during lockdown, though. Like, I won mentorship and guidance with Harriet Tice and Nadine Matheson, a course sponsored by Red Dog Press with Avase Con, and I don't think any of those things would have happened if it wasn't for lockdown, because they came up as these Zoom opportunities that it's not like I could have nipped to London to every week to see these people, or to Pakistan to see Avase, but these things just sort of happened because of lockdown. So I think in ways, while it stole opportunities, it created some as well.
Oh no, absolutely. And I certainly, I wouldn't have found my agent if it wasn't for a pitching event that my agency does that went online in December of that 2020 year. So yeah, and I certainly wouldn't have met the plethora of people that I have met, just not actually physically. And so yeah, it does kind of feel a little bit like I left the office, drove home, and now it's 2 years later, and like all of a sudden I'm no longer an accountant, I'm now an author, but I've not really
just a kind of bit of time traveling.
Yeah, and it certainly doesn't feel like it's been 2 years.
No, it's strange, isn't it? It's sort of evaporated. It's really odd.
It's been a really weird sort of couple of years, hasn't it? We have 2 minutes left. So just show us off your book covers again, if you've got one.
Well, I haven't, but I've got the mock-up cover of it on the front of the bookseller. So that's just a mock-up. It won't look like that, but that's the kind of idea.
And we've got the Her Perfect Twin as well, so people know where to be going and looking. And then all that's left to say, and Sam has said it very well, that it's been a great hour, and thank you very much for joining us.
No, thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.